Welcome to How To by Christina. In today's project I'm going to show you how to make a small ironing board, a portable ironing board. And I'm going to use things that you will find around the house. You may choose to use different things, but this is what I've used. I've used one chopping board that is been used and is ready to go in the bin, but I thought, why go in the bin when I can reuse it? I'm going to use an old towel. Again, we all have towels around the house that we think, oh, I don't want to throw this away, but I don't want to keep it, I don't want to use it. Or you're just about to throw it away and you think, oh, I can do something with it. Or any other fabric. It doesn't necessarily have to be a towel. I find towels work well when you iron because they're quite solid. And then a piece of fabric. Now you might choose to do patchwork, you might choose to have one big piece of fabric, you might choose to use scrap fabric that you've got around the house, whatever you use. Well, mine came from a shop. What I've done here, I folded my towel in half because that's the way it fits quite nicely on the board right towards the end. And then I'm going to fold it in three, which will give me a nice measurement to my ironing board. So be sure to be neat and make sure that everything, sort of the edges here and here, fit nicely. And what I'm going to do is, because this is at the top, I'm going to flip it over like that, and I've got a nice smooth end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look around here so it's not further than that, and then on the ends. Sorry, I just got interrupted by the postman. I'm back. Right, so my fabric came from a fabric shop, but it was an ex-display curtain, so they were selling them for 50p just to get. And I thought, oh, I can do something with that fabric, and I've got quite a bit of it left. But I thought, well, this is quite a nice cotton fabric, so it will be good for ironing, and it will make it even a pretty ironing board. Which is why mine has already got seams in place of different sizes and so on, because there's a curtain. But because it's going to be at the back of the ironing board, it's not a problem. When you do yours, I suspect you will have to sew a seam first, which is what I would recommend, a 1 centimetre seam, nice and straight, and then that way it stops your fabric from fraying when you come to staple it at the other end. So the first thing I'll do is I'll give the fabric a quick iron, just to make sure that it's nice and flat. It's not too badly creased. That's that. If you're wondering why I haven't done a seam here, is because this is going to go, when we come to staple, we're going to staple underneath the towel, and it's not going to be seen, so it's going to be a bit, which is why I didn't bother sewing it. I've got a staple gun. If you don't have a staple gun, you can use glue gun. Make sure that the glue is nowhere where the iron will go on, because obviously you don't want to ruin your iron. And we can start. So what you need to do is to make sure that the fabric goes nice and straight. What you need to do is you need to find, before you start stapling anything, you need to find the middle point. So mine is 24 centimeters wide, which means that wherever it says 12 centimeters, that's where the middle point is, and mine is here. Do the same at the bottom. Again, where number 12 is, because that's half of 24. And then what you need to do is you need to fold your fabric in half and find the middle point of your fabric at the top and then at the bottom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open it and mark it, so then that way I'm not losing any. And you can do on both sides just a little bit, so you know exactly where the middle point is. And now what I can do is when I come to staple it, I can match the top I can match the halfway point on the board with the halfway point on the fabric, so I know I've got a round equal amount of fabric and enough left. So if you decided to use a staple gun of any form, then what you can do is you need to line your fabric about, I would say, about 3 centimeters in. Even more if you've got excess fabric. You can do it like I did here. You can see it's quite a bit in, but that's not a problem as long as you line the halfway point, so you're not losing the fabric. And then you can start putting a few staples in. If you're using a glue gun, what I would recommend is that you put hot glue all along, like a straight line. It doesn't have to be a continuous line, but it has to be a straight line. Otherwise, your fabric might start coming out. And if you need to do 2 lots of glue, that's fine too, because we don't all have staples at home. I do a lot of reupholstering, which is why I've got a proper staple gun. But if you have a glue gun, that's fine too. You can do what I said. Put one at the stop, the stop here, and then a second one just down here. That way you're ensuring that your fabric doesn't come out. So let's go and staple. Make sure you press your stapler down. Doesn't have to be many. So I've put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 staples in here. If I turn it this way, you can see it's very, very solid. If you were to want to be sure, you can put one more. You can always add more in between. There you go. So I've added a bit more. Now, what we'll do now is take the folded towel and make sure that it's nice and straight with the ends here, so it doesn't go over or anything. You might have to pull it. You might have to straighten it. You might have to look inside, see if it's not proper, if it's not enough. Have a play. Don't rush. Make sure that it's done properly. Then that way it will be a long-lasting ironing board. You won't have to do another one. So this is nice and neat. You can see here, nice and neat, folded. You can, if you wanted, you could put staples in, but I don't think it's necessary at this stage, because we're going to have the fabric very, very tight around here, so you won't need to worry about so now that everything is neat and tight, we're ready to finish it. You can see it's already starting to take shape, and I'm sure that once we flip it over, don't forget about the seam here, that you to fold that in nice and neat. So you bring the fabric over, and what you can do is actually staple on the inside of the fabric so it doesn't show. But you do need to make sure that it's nice and tight, and all the edges and all that, all the ridges, everything is looking good, because you're the one who's going to be using it, and you want to like it, and you want it to last. So we'll put a staple here just to hold it in place, like that. And then we do the same on the other end. So you can see already is looking like a folded t-shirt, and on this side is nice and smooth because you've got a towel. So what we need to do now is make sure that we fold in the end, and there's no really easy way of doing this other than you can either do what I do here and fold it a bit like a present, like that, and you still have a good one, or you can fold these ones in and fold them nicely, staple nicely, and connect them that way. Whichever way you do it is fine, as long as you make sure that you stretch your fabric to the max, so it's nice and flat in here. For the purposes of today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to stretch the fabric and I'm going to staple it. Again, you don't need many staples in, because it's not something they're going to throw around or sit on or anything like that, like you would do with chairs. It's just enough to hold it in place. Put one right at the end. Obviously make sure that your fingers are out of the way and the fabric is nice and tight, like that. So following the pattern, we close in now, we fold the fabric, and what I want you to do is I want you to take your time when you fold this so the corners look neat. I don't want to cut it because I move my board around a lot and I don't want the fabric to come undone, to fray, to whatever. But it's up to you. Ultimately, it's your decision. So now I've got the fabric nice and neat, all tucked away, all pulled nicely. You can see it's nicely pulled, and that's what you want to do, is you want to have it nicely pulled. Put a few staples on the inside to hold the excess fabric down, and then the last few staples down here. You don't need many, just like that. Okay, and now we're at the last part of our ironing board. Again, the same thing, fold the fabric in nicely, pull it, make sure it's stretched to the max. Because you want your ironing board to look nice and neat from anywhere, from which part, whatever. If you're hanging it, you don't want it to have too much bulk fabric, and it just looks nice if it's finished neatly. Okay, so we're nearly done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch the fabric a little bit more, just like that. Yeah, and I'm going to put a couple of staples on the inside like we did with the other one, and a few staples at the end here. Make sure the fabric is nice and tight. There you go. So, I mean, if you wanted to, you could staple down here, or you could hand sew. It's up to you. I'm going to just put a few staples at about 5 centimeters distance. See, make sure you put your push your staple gun nice and strong, because sometimes if it's not, it doesn't go through. There you go. So here's your ironing board, all done. Nice. You can fiddle with it, you can use it, you can start using it straight away, and you can iron fabric. Just like that. And you can see it's fairly solid. And once it settles, once the fabric settles and everything settles, it will be even better. And you've got a nice ironing board that you can port with you anywhere around the house, in your craft room, upstairs, whatever you might need to do. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Welcome to How To by Christina. In today's project I'm going to show you how to make a small ironing board, a portable ironing board. And I'm going to use things that you will find around the house. You may choose to use different things, but this is what I've used. I've used one chopping board that is been used and used and used and is ready to go in the bin, but I thought, why go in the bin when I can reuse it? I'm going to use an old towel. Again, we all have towels around the house that we think, oh, I don't want to throw this away, but I don't want to keep it, I don't want to use it. Or you're just about to throw it away and you think, oh, I can do something with it. Or any other fabric. It doesn't necessarily have to be a towel. I find towels work well when you iron because they're quite solid. And then a piece of fabric. Now, you might choose to do patchwork, you might choose to have one big piece of fabric, you might choose to use scrap fabric that you've got around the house. Whatever you use. Well, mine came from a shop. What I've done here, I folded my towel in half because that's the way it fits quite nicely on the board right towards the end. And then I'm going to fold it in 3, which will give me a nice measurement to my ironing board. So be sure to be neat and make sure that everything, sort of the edges here and here, fit nicely. And what I'm going to do is, because this is at the